The wildest year of her life, Scarlett Vaughn slept with Brandon Whitmore, the heir to the Whitmore fortune. After a drunken party, he was usually distant and cold, but after that night, he acted like a man possessed, refusing to leave her alone. Poolside at a private club, behind the tinted windows of his penthouse, in the back room of an upscale lounge, they burned through every corner of the city. When it was over, Scarlett slipped out while he slept, stepping onto the balcony to call her father. "You wanted me to give up my stake in the family trust. Fine. I have one condition." Charles Vaughn sounded ecstatic on the other end. "Anything. Just name it." Scarlett let out a cold, sharp laugh. "5 billion. And a new identity. No one can know." "What? Do you even know how much that is?" "The Vaughn estate is worth over 50 billion. Think it over. Call me when you're ready." She hung up before he could reply and turned back into the room, just in time to see Brandon's phone light up. Naomi Caldwell had texted, "Brandon, I'll be home soon." Scarlett's eyes darkened. She ignored it and lay down to sleep. Early the next morning, Brandon was dressed sharply in a navy shirt and grey slacks, cologne trailing behind him. "I have a meeting today. Can't stay." Scarlett raised an eyebrow. "Wearing cologne to a meeting? Meeting or mistress?" He paused, then leaned in and kissed her forehead. "You're overthinking it. Eat something. I'll call you later." Once he left, her expression turned ice cold. She followed him discreetly at the airport. She watched him lift a suitcase for Naomi with a soft, familiar smile that stung worse than a slap. Scarlett's nails dug into her palm until blood rose, but she didn't flinch. Her eyes were all frost. He lied to her. Scarlett Vaughn was the sole heir to the Vaughn legacy, but her relationship with her parents had always been toxic. Her father and mother had married for power, not love. They each had other partners and had Scarlett only for show. Though they never divorced, they lived separate lives. Watching them, Scarlett lost all faith in marriage. When she came of age, she partied through every bar and club in San Francisco, earning a reputation as a seductive socialite who sent trust fund brats running. Until she met him, even drugged out of his mind, Brandon Whitmore had an undeniable air of control. His eyes were hazy, his face flushed, and Scarlett couldn't look away, so she took him. She thought it was a one-night stand. The next day, he showed up again. "Scarlett, I'll take responsibility." His sincerity made her heart race. She laughed it off. "It was fun. I'm not the one who lost anything. Don't be so serious." But on day 3, he showed up at her grandfather's estate to propose. He declared he'd only ever marry her and that the Whitmore family had a strict tradition of monogamy. No scandals. No mistresses. She was stunned. Who would believe the city's wildest party girl had found someone she wanted to keep? They got engaged. Moved in together. He was her first, and he became an addiction. When their 1-month anniversary came, she dressed up, filled the house with candles and flowers, and waited. The candles burned out. The house went dark. He never came. She scrolled through social media to distract herself. A viral video from abroad caught her eye. #billionaire donates kidney for love. The comments were wild. This is real love. Who flies across the world to save a girl's life? Can't see his face clearly, but that body, damn. She's stunning. They're a perfect couple. Scarlett recognized the man instantly. The ring on his finger? She had designed it. One of a kind. She looked down at her own matching ring. Her world tilted. He had flown overseas. Donated a kidney. For another woman, was the proposal just guilt? She called him, hands shaking. No answer. Phone forgotten. She stormed into his office, cracked his laptop. Hidden behind encryption were photos. Naomi Caldwell, his ex, her father's illegitimate daughter. Scarlett stared at the familiar face. It resembled hers. Her throat tightened. Her body trembled. The question wasn't whether she was a stand-in. It was that he had betrayed her. She wiped her tears. Her eyes were clear now. He vanished for a week. No contact. No explanation. When he finally returned, all he said was, "Stop. I'm tired." He didn't see her toss her engagement ring into the trash along with her heart. The shrill ring of her phone pulled her back to the present. She answered. It was Charles Vaughn. "The 5 billion is in your account. New identity will be ready in 7 days. Don't back out. Relax." "I won't." Scarlett smiled faintly. Her face, already striking, now lit up with a dazzling brilliance that turned heads as she walked down the street. "Brandon Whitmore, in 7 days, I'll disappear from your world for good. 6 days until she left. The youngest Vaughn daughter had just flown back into the country and wasted no time showing off her return on Instagram. Photos of a buzzing pool party, a mountain of gifts, a cozy father-daughter selfie, and someone very familiar in the background. Scarlett saw the tagged location, slammed the gas, and sped across the city. No way she was missing this party. It was hosted at one of Charles Vaughn's private estates. The moment Scarlett stepped in, the crowd fell silent, but the whispers came fast and low. Isn't that the eldest Vaughn daughter? Today's supposed to be about welcoming the younger one. Think she's here to cause trouble? Wouldn't be surprised. She's the rightful heir. Probably hates the love child. Charles caught wind of the murmurs and his face darkened. Scarlett, this party is for Naomi. Relax, I'm not here to ruin it. I'm here to find someone. Who? He looked confused. Scarlett pointed at the tall man standing beside Naomi Caldwell, that familiar smile glued to his face. A smirk tugged at her lips. Charles's face twisted as he followed her finger. Don't be ridiculous. That's Naomi's boyfriend. Scarlett's voice turned to ice. Well, he's also my fiancé. We've been engaged a month. Didn't you know who your daughter was marrying? The shock on Charles's face said it all. He had no idea. Scarlett had long known her father didn't care about her. But somehow, it still hurt. The crowd erupted. Brandon stepped forward, trying to explain. Scarlett, you've misunderstood. It's not like that. Naomi cut in. Scarlett, please don't get the wrong idea. Brandon and I are just friends. My dad assumed something that wasn't true. Scarlett's laugh was razor sharp. Just friends? Then explain why my fiancé lied about a meeting and ended up at your party. Her gaze never left Brandon's face. Or are some people just too greedy? Enough. Brandon growled, storming over and grabbing her wrist. Let's talk at home. Let go of me. She struggled, but he didn't hesitate. He lifted her over his shoulder, effortlessly. It was a move he'd used before when things were playful, flirtatious, but this wasn't that. Scarlett fought harder, thrashing against him. Brandon sighed and gave her backside a light smack. Stop. Please. Embarrassed and furious, Scarlett's cheeks turned scarlet. He stuffed her into the passenger seat of his Maybach and took off, leaving the stunned party behind. Inside the car, the blast of cold air did little to cool her fury. Scarlett sat stiffly, arms crossed, voice cold. Talk. When did you two reconnect? Brandon loosened his collar, hesitating. Naomi was Blake's girl. Blake. His twin brother. The one who died 3 years ago, during that car crash, he continued. Blake died saving me. Naomi was badly hurt. She can't have kids anymore. Scarlett didn't speak. She stared straight ahead, her expression unreadable. Before he died, Brandon added, Blake made me promise to take care of her. It's what he wanted. So you gave her everything? Scarlett snapped. Including your kidney? Brandon flinched. She needed it. It wasn't just about him. It was the right thing to do. Silence stretched between them like a canyon. Scarlett turned to him, voice barely above a whisper. If I asked you to choose me or her, who would you pick? His breath caught, then his phone rang. Bluetooth picked it up instantly. Naomi's tearful voice filled the car. Brandon, my stomach, it really hurts. The doctors think it's a rejection episode. Can you please come? Brandon's hand tightened on the wheel. I'm on my way. He slammed the brakes, pulled over. I'm sorry. I can't leave her like this. Scarlett already knew the answer. But hearing it, seeing it, it still carved something out of her chest. Without a second thought, Brandon got out, opened her door, and helped her down onto the side of the road. She didn't say a word. Just stood there, barefoot on hot asphalt, watching him drive off. His taillights faded into the distance. She looked down at the heels in her hand, then at the empty road stretching for miles. Scarlett took a deep breath and started walking. The sun scorched her skin. The road burned her feet. But she didn't stop, not when blisters formed. Not when blood seeped out. Not when the pain grew unbearable. By the time she got home, her feet were raw. Ruined, she collapsed onto the cold marble floor of her foyer, breath ragged. Her phone buzzed. A headline flashed. CEO hires entire medical team to monitor girlfriend's health. She stared at it until her vision blurred. Then the pain hit all at once. She curled up on the floor, sobs racking her body. The man who once rushed her to the ER for a scraped knee, he wasn't coming back. She was alone. A wave of dizziness swept over her. Scarlett touched her forehead, burning hot. She tried to stand, to get to the medicine cabinet upstairs, but her legs gave out halfway up the staircase. The world spun, then went black. Her body tumbled down the steps. Scarlett. She heard his voice, urgent, panicked, just before everything went silent. When she woke again, she was in a hospital bed, and four in her arm. Brandon was sitting beside her, his hand tightly holding hers. "You're okay," he murmured. "You're safe." His voice was low, trembling. Scarlett stirred, the scent of his cologne, once comforting, now nauseating. She turned her head, dry heaving. Brandon rushed to help, holding a tissue to her mouth with gentle care. No hint of disgust. No distance. A nurse walked in. "Mr. Whitmore, Naomi's having nightmares again. She's panicking. Could you come?" Brandon looked at Scarlett, torn, then he stood up. She didn't stop him. She didn't say a word as he left, but the moment the door clicked shut, Scarlett's eyes flew open. Wide. Awake. Cold. Only 5 days left. Later that night, unable to sleep, she wandered the halls and found herself outside Naomi's room. Through the gap in the door, she saw them. Brandon was holding Naomi close, whispering in her ear, "Don't worry, I'm here." Naomi sniffled. "I dreamed about Blake again. We were going to get married, remember?" Then she looked up, her eyes wide with unspoken desire. "Brandon, can you give me the wedding Blake promised me?" There was a pause. "I know it's selfish," she added quickly, "but it was our dream. The one thing we never got." Brandon closed his eyes. "I'll do it," he said. Naomi didn't smile at him. She smiled at the door. Scarlett turned away, quietly wiping her cheek. "You're wrong, Brandon." She thought, "I won't understand. I'll never forgive this." Back in her hospital bed, Scarlett pretended to sleep. But when Brandon returned, she opened her eyes and stared straight into his. "No more pretending," he asked with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You should be with Naomi," she said flatly. "Why are you here?" "So you are jealous." He grinned, poured her a glass of water, and handed it to her. Scarlett drank slowly. Her throat was dry, her heart drier. "I told Naomi she shouldn't come," Brandon said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "She needs rest. I told her I'd speak for both of us. She wants to go through with the wedding. It's what she and Blake always wanted." He looked at her, waiting for a reaction. A slap. A scream, but Scarlett only nodded. "All right. Is that all?" He blinked. "That's it. No yelling. No tears." Scarlett looked at him with tired eyes. "Why would I stop you? You're repaying a debt. I won't interfere." Brandon's stomach twisted. Something in her voice didn't sound like surrender. It sounded like goodbye. Before he could speak again, Naomi burst into the room. "I knew Scarlett wouldn't mind," she chirped, eyes bright. "You've always been so understanding. Should we pick a date? A venue?" Scarlett didn't flinch. Didn't blink. "Go ahead," she said. "I'm tired. Please leave." Brandon hesitated but followed Naomi out. At the door, he lingered, looking back. "I promise, after the ceremony, I'll make everything right. I'll marry you. You're the only one I've ever truly." Scarlett opened her door just enough to cut him off. "You'll what? Promise Naomi will leave quietly? That you won't care if she falls apart again? Brandon, let's end this. Cleanly." Her voice was final. Then he saw it, her suitcase by the bed. His heart dropped. "You're leaving me?" Scarlett didn't answer. She grabbed her suitcase and walked past him. Brandon reached for her, but his phone rang. "Naomi," again. Scarlett gave him one last glance. 1 second too long. Then she stepped into her Ferrari, slammed the door, and peeled off, spraying mud across his designer shoes as she vanished down the road behind him. His phone kept ringing. Brandon stood frozen on the driveway, drenched in mud, his phone still buzzing in his hand. He barely looked at the screen before finally answering. "Brandon." Naomi's voice was frantic. "Help me. I've been kidnapped. They say they'll only talk to you. You have to come now." His blood ran cold. Without hesitation, he jumped into his car and tore down the road in the opposite direction. Scarlett had gone miles away. Scarlett checked into one of the most exclusive hotels in the city under an alias. The suite was high up, secluded, and quiet, just what she needed to disappear. She had barely set her bags down when her phone buzzed. A message from Brandon. "Scarlett, it's Tyler Brooks. He's behind Naomi's kidnapping. He wants to trade you for her. I need your help. Please come." She stared at the message, expressionless. Then slowly, she exhaled. She didn't like Naomi. But she couldn't let her die. Scarlett followed the GPS location he'd sent. An abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. As soon as she stepped inside, A pair of hands grabbed her. Brandon. You came, he said, his voice tight with relief. Scarlett tried to pull away. Where is she? Tyler said if I hand you over, he'll release her. The words hit like a sledgehammer. Her face went slack with disbelief. You brought me here, to hand me over? Brandon wouldn't meet her eyes. She's fragile, Scarlett. She won't survive this. You're strong. You'll be okay. She stared at him in horror. Tyler appeared from the shadows, a knife pressed to Naomi's throat. 1 minute, he barked. Trade, or she bleeds. Naomi sobbed helplessly, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Brandon looked back at Scarlett. You've been with other men. Naomi's never even. She's still. Scarlett recoiled like he'd slapped her. You think I've been with other men? She hissed. You were my first. You saw the proof. You know it. Naomi jumped in quickly, her voice trembling. Oh, come on, Brandon. In this day and age, anyone can fake that. And how convenient, she just happened to get you while you were drugged. Scarlett's breath caught. Brandon's eyes darkened, and then he shoved her forward. Take her, he said coldly. Let Naomi go. Scarlett stumbled as Tyler's men grabbed her, dragging her back. Her heart cracked in a way it never had before. She turned one last time toward Brandon. Tears welled, but she didn't let them fall. You said you'd protect me for life, she whispered. You betrayed me. Lied to me. Now you're going to let me die. Brandon didn't respond. He just held Naomi's hand and walked away. Scarlett's light died out behind her eyes. He didn't just give her up. He sentenced her. And this time, no one was coming to save her. Tyler's goons dragged Scarlett across the factory floor. She didn't scream. She didn't fight, but her eyes, those sharp, defiant eyes, never wavered. Whitmore really just handed you over, Tyler said with a grin, circling her like a vulture. Guess that's what love means these days. Scarlett stayed silent. I've wanted a piece of you for years, he went on, licking his lips. You think you're better than everyone. Let's see how high and mighty you are when you're on your knees. He reached out to grab her. She snapped, touch me, and Whitmore won't be your biggest problem. I'll make sure you rot for it. Tyler just laughed, signaling to his men. Lock her in the back room. No food, no light. Let's see how long that fire lasts. They threw her into a windowless space no larger than a closet and slammed the door. Total darkness swallowed her. Scarlett sat curled in the corner, arms wrapped around her knees, shaking, not from cold, from memory. Of being left in that silent wing of the Vaughn estate as a child. Forgotten for days. No one checked on her. No one noticed. She had feared darkness ever since. Brandon had known that, and he left her here anyway, alone. The silence screamed. Her breath grew shallow. Her thoughts twisted. She whispered into the black, someone, anyone, please. She prayed not to God, but to names: her father, her mother, her grandfather. Even Brandon. Nothing. Eventually, her whisper changed. I'll do anything. Just, let me live. But no one came. She didn't know how long passed. Minutes. Hours. Then, footsteps. The door creaked open. Two unfamiliar men stepped in. One held a bat. The boss says you're bad press. Wants us to clean this up. Scarlett's heart thundered. Then, crack. Pain burst through her skull as everything faded to black. She woke up in a familiar bed, her father's guest room, bandages around her head. Her lips dry. Her limbs heavy. She was alive. Beside her lay her stolen phone. 4 days had passed. Tomorrow was Brandon and Naomi's wedding. Sunlight streamed in through the windows. Birds chirped outside. She stared at the ceiling, barely breathing. Her phone buzzed. A digital wedding invite from Brandon sent to everyone, including her. Scarlett read the message 3 times before typing her reply, wishing you all the happiness in the world. And then she hit send. Her fingers didn't tremble, but her heart, what was left of it, ached like hell. The door burst open. Charles Vaughn stormed in, face twisted with rage. You're awake. Good. Where is it? Scarlett blinked, dazed. What? The emerald signet ring, he barked. The one your grandfather left you. That ring is the key to controlling the Vaughn board. She stared at him, stunned by the urgency, by the greed dripping from his every word. I gave up my claim, she said weakly. You already got what you wanted. Not enough, Charles growled, pacing. With that ring, I can force the board to name me as permanent trustee. He lunged at her, grabbing her shoulders. Where is it? Scarlett reached around her neck and unclasped the thin silver chain she never removed. The emerald ring dangled from it. He snatched it without hesitation, but Scarlett held onto his wrist, her voice low, almost too calm. You know the ring isn't enough, right? You also need the approval of the last appointed heir. Charles froze. What did you just say? Scarlett didn't answer. He backhanded her across the mouth. She reeled, blood dripping down her chin. Ungrateful brat, he hissed. Think you can outsmart me? He turned to the butler standing silently in the doorway. Bind her. We're taking a little trip. To where? The butler asked. To the helicopter, Charles said with a wicked grin. Middle of the Pacific. Drop her in the ocean. Make it clean. Scarlett's heart pounded. He really meant to kill her. Don't blame me, he said sweetly, as she was gagged and tied. You were never supposed to outlive your usefulness. One heir is more than enough. They dragged her to the helipad. The engine was already running. The sky was cloudless. Perfect for disposal. No one stopped them. No one even knew she was alive. 30 minutes later, they were over open water now, Charles said. The pilot turned back. Expressionless, Scarlett tried to scream through the gag. Tried to plead with her eyes. Too late, she was shoved hard. The wind screamed past her ears. Her body tumbled into the sky. The last thing she saw was the tail of the helicopter disappearing into the clouds. Then, the ocean swallowed her whole. That morning, in a sprawling cathedral lined with white roses and chandeliers, Brandon Whitmore was getting married. Photographers buzzed. Guests sipped champagne. The media called it the society wedding of the year. Brandon barely noticed any of it. He sat in a private room, scrolling through his phone. His inbox was filled with congratulations, and then he saw it. One message from Scarlett, wishing you all the happiness in the world. His chest tightened. He read it again. And again. That was all. No sarcasm. No fight. Just, goodbye. He typed back immediately. If you mean it, why aren't you here? He waited. Minutes passed. No reply. She always answered him fast. Why not now? A cold unease crept up his spine. He dialed her number. The line rang once, then cut to voicemail. The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. He forced a chuckle. She's mad, he muttered. Just playing games. He sent another message. Be good. We'll talk tonight. I'll explain everything. I promise. He stared at the screen, still unread. A soft knock came at the door. His assistant peeked in. Sir, the Vaughn estate confirmed. Miss Vaughn is awake. She's resting. Brandon exhaled. Relief washed over him. She's okay. Everything's fine. He stood, adjusted his cuff flinks. It was timed. As he walked toward the altar, his assistant fell into step beside him. Sir, are you really going through with this? Brandon paused. Scarlett's face flashed in his mind, those fiery eyes, that crooked smile, the way she always said what no one else dared. She'll forgive me, he said with conviction. She always does. The assistant hesitated. But if she doesn't? Brandon didn't answer. He forced a smile, walked into the grand hall, and took his place beneath the arch. Music swelled. Naomi walked down the aisle in a custom Vera Wang gown, glowing with triumph. Brandon saw none of it. He was watching the doors, waiting. She's coming. She has to. But Scarlett never walked in. Instead, just as the vows were about to begin, the cathedral doors burst open. All heads turned, and there stood a man, bruised, limping, but very much alive. Tyler Brooks. Eyes wild with rage. Brandon's blood ran cold. Tyler staggered down the aisle, ignoring the gasps and whispers around him. Brandon stepped forward, his voice thunderous. What the hell are you doing here? Oh, relax, Tyler sneered, loud enough for every guest to hear. I'm just here to say a few words to the bride. Naomi's smile cracked. She backed up a step, clutching her bouquet like a shield. Naomi Caldwell, Tyler said, pointing at her with trembling fingers, you didn't think I'd survive, did you? The room went still. You tried to kill me, he said, voice breaking into a manic laugh. You planned the whole kidnapping. It was all your idea. A horrified murmur rippled through the crowd. She paid me to make Scarlett disappear, he continued. Wanted her out of the picture so this, he gestured to the altar, could happen. Naomi's lips parted, but no sound came out. She said if I helped her, she'd make me rich. But then, once I did her dirty work, she sent men to clean up the mess, including me. Brandon's jaw clenched. He turned to Naomi. Tell me he's lying. Naomi's eyes were wild, her voice shaking. He's insane. I don't know what he's talking about. But Brandon wasn't even listening anymore. His eyes had gone flat. Cold. You knew Scarlett might show up, he whispered. So you made sure she couldn't. Tyler laughed again, then turned to the guests. Surprised? Don't be. This entire wedding is built on lies. Brandon didn't blink. He looked at the security guards. Get him out. As Tyler was dragged away, he shouted over his shoulder, better check your bride's closet before you say I do, Whitmore. Brandon turned back toward Naomi. She was trembling. I didn't mean for it to go that far, she said, her voice cracking. I just wanted a chance. Brandon stared at her for a long, dead moment. Then quietly, he removed the wedding ring from his pocket and walked off the altar. Gasps exploded from the audience. Naomi reached for him, frantic. Brandon, wait. Please. He didn't turn back. Somewhere far away, on a sunlit island, Scarlett Vaughn sat on a quiet balcony, watching the wedding unfold on a live stream. Her body was still healing, wrapped in gauze and bruises. Beside her, Aidan Clark handed her a glass of iced tea. You sure you want to watch this train wreck in real time? He asked. Scarlett didn't answer. She was too busy staring at the screen, watching Brandon walk away. He had known everything, and still, he let it happen. A bitter smile touched her lips. Then she turned off the screen. Aidan studied her face carefully. You okay? Scarlett set the remote down, leaned back in the chair. Her voice was cool. I'm alive. That's more than anyone expected. He didn't smile. Not this time. You should rest. Your stitches. I'm fine, she interrupted. I've been through worse. They both knew that wasn't true. She had almost died. More than once, because of Brandon. Because of Naomi. Because of her own family, and now, they were paying the price. Aidan sat down across from her, silent for a moment. Then, you're not going to tell him you're alive, are you? Scarlett's eyes didn't waver. No. Aidan exhaled through his nose. That's cold. Is it? She asked, her voice soft. He threw me away like I was nothing. Watched me get dragged off and did nothing. I owe him silence. A pause. And Naomi? She'll fall, Scarlett said simply. Sooner or later. Aidan didn't argue. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out something wrapped in velvet. He placed it in her hand. Scarlett unwrapped it slowly, her breath caught. It was the heirloom emerald ring. The Vaughn family signet. The one her father had ripped from her neck before trying to murder her. Her fingers trembled slightly. You got it back, she whispered. Aidan shrugged. Let's just say your father's not in a position to argue. Scarlett looked at him for a long time. How deep are you in this, Aidan? His eyes met hers, calm and steady. As deep as I need to be. You saved my life. I'd do it again. The air between them shifted. It was no longer just old friends, or childhood rivals, or shared scars. Scarlett looked down at the ring, then back at him. I hated you once. I deserved it. And now? Aidan leaned forward, voice quiet. Now, I'm asking for a chance. Scarlett didn't answer right away, but she didn't say no either. Back at the cathedral, chaos reigned. Naomi was in tears, pleading with Brandon as guests whispered and scattered. The media circled like vultures, eager to devour every second of the spectacle. Brandon didn't care. He stormed out of the hall, shoved past reporters, and climbed into his car with shaking hands. His mind raced, his chest tight. He couldn't get Scarlett out of his head. That text. That silence. That look in her eyes the last time he saw her. He grabbed his phone, dialing the Vaughn estate. Put Scarlett on the phone, he snapped. A pause. Then a nervous voice. Sir, Miss Vaughn, isn't here. What do you mean she's not there? He growled. She never came back, sir. We haven't seen her since the hospital. We assumed she was with you. His blood turned to ice. He hung up and immediately called the pilot from Charles Vaughn's fleet. No answer. Called again. Still nothing. He called the hospital. Checked with security at every Vaughn property. Nothing. No one had seen Scarlett in days. A hollow panic spread through his chest. Then his assistant rushed in with a grim face. Sir, he said. You need to see this. He handed Brandon a tablet. On the screen was bodycam footage from 2 local police officers, filmed just hours earlier. A battered man was being pulled from a fishing trawler, barely conscious, babbling about a woman thrown from a helicopter. The name he repeated over and over? Scarlett Vaughn. Brandon's knees buckled. He caught himself on the wall. No. No, he had let her walk away. He had let her get hurt again. And this time, it might have cost her her life. Somewhere in the Pacific, Scarlett stood barefoot in the sand, her dress fluttering in the wind. The ocean was calm now. The sun was setting. She watched it quietly, Aidan beside her, hands tucked in his pockets. After a while, she spoke. Do you think he's looking for me? Aidan hesitated, then answered truthfully. Yeah. I think he is. Scarlett didn't smile. I hope he never finds me. Aidan turned to her. Even if he's sorry? She didn't look at him when she said it. Some things don't get forgiven. The waves rolled in. Soft. Unapologetic, Scarlett let the water touch her toes, then turned her back on it. She was done drowning. She had survived. And this time, she was never going back. Back in the city, Brandon Whitmore was unraveling. He hadn't slept in 48 hours. The moment he saw that footage, the battered fisherman mumbling Scarlett's name, he activated every connection, every dollar, every shadow resource the Whitmore empire had. Drones scanned coastlines, private satellites were rerouted. Interceptors were dispatched to trawl every nautical mile from San Francisco to open sea. Still nothing. The guilt gnawed at him, raw and constant. He'd handed her over. Watched her disappear into darkness. Listened to Naomi's lies like they were gospel. Now, he'd give everything to take it back, every last share. Every last promise, every drop of blood in his body, just to hear Scarlett's voice again. A week passed. Then another, and finally a single ping. A low-resolution image from a drone's AI scan flagged an anomaly, a figure standing barefoot on the shore of an uninhabited island, staring into the sea. Even blurry and distant, Brandon knew it was her. Before dawn the next day, he was on a jet. No entourage. No press. Only a pilot, coordinates, and a silence thick with desperation. The seaplane landed just off the island. Brandon didn't wait. He jumped waist-deep into the water and ran, soaked and panting, toward the beach. There she was. Scarlett stood beside a bonfire, wrapped in a linen shirt, hair tousled by the wind. Aidan was a few steps behind her, arms folded, watching with a guarded gaze. Brandon stopped short, his throat tightened. Her eyes met his. Calm. Unreadable. Scarlett. She didn't flinch. Didn't move. You're alive, he breathed. Yes, she said. Despite your best efforts. His face contorted. I didn't know what Naomi was planning. I thought you thought I'd be fine. You thought I'd survive it. Like always. She stepped closer, every word cutting him open. You didn't even look back, Brandon. Not once. I was wrong, he whispered. I know that now. I'm sorry. No, she interrupted. You're sorry because I didn't die. The bonfire crackled between them. Behind her, Aidan moved slightly, protective, quiet. Brandon noticed, his jaw tensed. Is this what you ran to? Him? Scarlett's expression stayed neutral. I didn't run. I was thrown away. Aidan just knew how to pick up broken things. Brandon took a step forward, desperation in his voice. Come home. We can fix this. There is no we, Brandon. Scarlett's voice didn't rise, but it didn't need to. I loved you. I gave you everything. You chose your guilt. Your past. Ha. Brandon looked like he might fall apart. Then let me at least make it right. Whatever it takes. You can't, she said. Because what I needed wasn't money or apologies. I needed someone who wouldn't trade me like currency. She turned. Aidan was waiting. She didn't look back. Brandon stood alone on the sand, watching the only woman he'd ever truly loved walk away. This time, for good. Brandon didn't move. The ocean lapped at his feet, warm and mocking. That he had chased her halfway around the world, spent millions in a desperate search. And still, he was too late. Scarlett disappeared down a trail with Aidan at her side, their silhouettes framed by sunset and smoke. She never once turned around. It wasn't anger that crushed Brandon now. It was grief. The grief of knowing the final door had closed, not slammed, not shouted, but sealed with silence. She had survived hell, and she had chosen to leave him in it. Back at the Vaughn estate, the walls were crumbling, literally and figuratively. Charles Vaughn had been arrested on charges of attempted murder, embezzlement, and conspiracy. The board stripped his title. His assets were frozen. The Vaughn name, once golden, had become a scandalous stain in every newspaper headline. And yet, a new name quietly rose from the ashes. Scarlett Vaughn. With the family's signet ring returned and her identity legally reinstated, she now held sole authority over the estate. But she didn't return to San Francisco. She didn't want the spotlight. Instead, her lawyers handled the transition, quietly shifting billions into philanthropic funds, dissolving old power structures, and rewriting the family's legacy on her terms. She didn't need the crown, just the freedom to burn the throne. Weeks later, on a quiet night in the Mediterranean, Aidan found her on the villa's balcony, barefoot with a glass of wine in hand. Her hair was tied up messily. She looked nothing like the girl in the tabloids. She looked real. Thinking? He asked. Scarlett sipped her wine. Not really. Just breathing. He nodded. That's allowed. She glanced over at him, her eyes soft for the first time in a long time. Do you regret coming for me? He leaned on the railing beside her. Not for a second. They stood there in silence, the sea calm beneath the moon. Then she spoke again. I'm not ready. For anything. For love. For promises. Not yet. I'll wait, Aiden said simply. Scarlett gave a quiet laugh. What if I never am? Then I'll still be here. Because you're not a project, Scarlett. You're a person. You don't owe me anything. She turned toward him, tears glinting, but she didn't cry. Instead, she reached out and gently took his hand. Not a vow, not a beginning, but maybe a second chance at a different kind of ending. Point one that was hers to choose. Brandon never fully recovered. He returned to San Francisco a different man, quieter, sharper edged, haunted in the way only someone who had lost everything could be. His empire remained intact. Whitmore Global still thrived, stocks still climbed, but behind the glass walls of his office, he was a shell. Executives whispered that he barely slept, that he no longer attended galas or interviews, that he stared out the window as if waiting for something that would never come, and they were right. Every night, he'd scroll through old photos of Scarlett, replaying messages she never answered. His penthouse still held traces of her favorite vinyl records stacked by the stereo, the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the guest room where she used to sneak off when they fought. He never touched those things. He couldn't. Because some part of him still believed she'd walk back through the door, and some nights, in the deepest hours before dawn, he'd find himself whispering her name into the silence, just in case the universe was still listening. Scarlett didn't follow the news anymore. She no longer needed to know what Brandon Whitmore was doing, or what stocks were rising, or what headlines screamed across glossy magazine covers. Her world had shrunk, intentionally. A vineyard in Tuscany. A quiet writing desk. Mornings spent barefoot in the garden. Afternoons on the cliffs with Aiden, trading old memories for laughter, letting the wind take pieces of her past one breath at a time. She was healing, not erasing. Not forgetting, just becoming whole. One morning, Aiden placed a small box on the breakfast table. Scarlett raised an eyebrow. What's this? Open it. Inside was a silver compass pendant. Engraved on the back were 4 words, wherever you go, I'm there. Her fingers traced the etching. She looked up, startled. It's not a proposal, Aiden said quickly, smiling. It's a reminder. You never have to be lost again. Scarlett closed the box gently. For the first time in years, her chest didn't tighten at the idea of being loved. I'm not ready, she said softly. I know, Aiden replied. I'm just here. She reached across the table, took his hand, and this time, she held on longer. No rings, no vows. Just something real. Some stories end with weddings, diamonds, and promises whispered at an altar. But not hers. Scarlett Vaughn's story didn't end with love found. It ended with something stronger. Freedom reclaimed, and a life, finally, on her own terms. Years passed. People forgot. New headlines replaced old scandals. New heiresses stepped into the limelight. The Vaughn and Whitmore names, once tangled in drama and tragedy, became footnotes in business columns and documentaries no one finished, but some people remembered. In quiet corners of the world, her name still stirred whispers. Scarlett Vaughn, the girl who vanished and never looked back. The woman who turned betrayal into power, pain into peace. She never gave interviews. Never wrote a memoir. Never returned to San Francisco, but her foundations quietly rebuilt battered women's shelters. Her money funded legal defense teams for survivors. Her influence shifted entire industries toward ethics and transparency. Though her name was never listed, she wasn't chasing justice, she was planting it. One spring afternoon, Scarlett sat on the patio of her small villa in Provence, sketching grapevines in a leather journal. The sun was warm on her shoulders. The breeze smelled of lavender. Aiden came out, 2 cups of coffee in hand. He placed one beside her and didn't speak. He knew better than to break her quiet mornings. She glanced at him, then back to the page. Have you ever wondered, she said after a long pause, what would have happened if I'd said yes to him? Aiden didn't pretend not to know who she meant. He just took a sip of his coffee and said, every day. Scarlett smiled, not sad, not bitter. Just honest. I think I would have lost myself. Aiden met her eyes. Then I'm glad you didn't. She nodded. They sat there for a while, two people who didn't need perfect endings to feel whole. And miles away, in a high-rise office with glass walls and a skyline view, Brandon Whitmore stood alone. On his desk sat a photo, Scarlett, laughing, holding a glass of red wine, blurry and beautiful. He never told anyone how often he spoke to that photo. He never remarried, never loved again. He built more companies, bought more property, was named one of the most powerful men in America 5 years running. But power meant nothing when he turned off the lights at night and faced the one truth he could never change: she had survived without him, and he would never stop missing her. This wasn't a story of who ended up with whom. It was the story of a woman who lost everything and saved herself. Autumn came to Provence in gold and rust. Scarlett stood at the edge of the vineyard, now fully hers. The rose stretched wide under a grey sky, heavy with promise. She breathed in the crisp air, the scent of crushed grapes, and earth warmed by years of quiet healing. It wasn't silence that filled her now, it was peace. Not absence, but presence. Aidan called from the porch, "Dinner's ready." She turned, smiling. "Be there in a minute." Later that evening, as they shared a bottle from their own vines, a letter arrived. Not email. Not digital, real ink. Real paper. Scarlett stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Inside was a single page. Brandon's handwriting. Steady. Sharp. Still familiar. "Scarlett, there's no reason for you to read this, but I've written it anyway. Because I owe you truth, even if it comes too late. I made choices that cost me you. Choices I'll live with until the day I die. You saved me once, and I repaid you by breaking you. I will never forgive myself for that. I don't ask for forgiveness. I just want you to know. I believe in who you are. In who you've become. And if there's a better man in your life, I hope he knows he walks beside a woman forged from fire. Thank you for showing me what real love looked like, even if I didn't deserve it. Goodbye, Scarlett. She folded the letter neatly. Didn't cry. Didn't tremble. Just looked out the window into the night, letting the words settle, not like a wound, but like a page turned. Aidan didn't ask what it said. He simply poured her another glass and slid the record player needle to a slow, warm jazz track. Scarlett leaned her head on his shoulder. And for the first time in a long, long time, she danced. Not for anyone else, not to forget, not to mourn, but because she was alive, because she was finally free, because the story was over, and she had written the ending herself. Winter came quietly. The vineyard slept beneath a soft dusting of snow, the vines bare but not lifeless, just waiting, as all things do, for spring. Scarlett no longer waited. She lived. Some mornings, she woke before the sun and walked the rows in silence. Other days, she wrote pages filled with stories no one would ever read but her. Not the stories of what happened, but of what could have. Worlds where pain wasn't currency. Where trust didn't snap like brittle glass. Where girls weren't taught to burn themselves just to keep others warm. She wrote those stories because someone, somewhere, might one day need them. And she'd become the kind of woman who could offer something more than her survival. She could offer a map. One crisp afternoon, a small package arrived. No note. Just a box with a digital voice recorder inside. Scarlett frowned and pressed play. Brandon's voice, rougher than she remembered. "Warn, if you're hearing this, it means I've stopped trying to find you. Or maybe I've accepted that you don't want to be found. I used to think love meant holding on, forcing a second chance, fighting for someone even when they didn't ask to be fought for. But I was wrong. You didn't need saving, Scarlett. You needed letting go. And I couldn't do that. Until now. I hope Aidan makes you laugh. I hope you wear that stubborn smile when you challenge the world. I hope you never look back and feel small. And if you ever think of me, I hope it's not with hate. Just a little softness. A little space where something good once lived. Goodbye, Fireheart." The tape clicked off. Scarlett sat for a long time, holding the recorder. Then she stood, walked to the edge of the property, and buried it beneath the roots of her oldest vine, not to forget but to honor it. Love had come to her in many forms, violent, selfish, tender, true, but this time, she had given it back to the earth. And when spring finally broke through winter's frost, green crept through the vineyard again. So did she, point one step at a time, with no weight on her shoulders, no ghosts at her heels, and no pages left unfinished. Summer arrived like a quiet triumph. Not loud or blazing, just steady warmth, like someone who knows their place in the world and no longer needs to prove anything. Scarlett stood barefoot in the vineyard one morning, inspecting the newest growth. The vines had flourished, stretching higher this year than the last. A good omen, the locals said. She just smiled. She didn't need omens anymore, she had roots now, and peace didn't come in lightning bolts, it came in sunlit mornings and days without fear. Later that week, Aidan found her by the lake, sketching in a worn notebook, legs dipped in the cool water. He sat beside her and held up a lettered no return address. No postmark. Just her name. Scarlett took it with a flicker of surprise. Inside was a photograph. A little girl, no more than 5, laughing, holding a bunch of wildflowers. On the back, in familiar handwriting, her name is Blake. I adopted her 2 years ago. She's mine now. The way I wish I'd been yours. I thought you should know. B. Scarlett stared at the photo, then at the name. Blake. It hit her, not like pain, but like stillness. She didn't cry. Didn't ache. She smiled. For the first time, Brandon had chosen to give, not take. He had honored what they lost, and passed something beautiful forward. That night, as the sun sank low and the sky went pink, Scarlett sat across from Aidan on the porch, wine between them. Quiet music inside. Do you regret it? He asked softly. Regret what? Everything you had to lose, to become this version of yourself. Scarlett leaned back, considering. No, she said. I think some people are born twice. Once into the world, and once into their own power. Aidan raised his glass. To your second birth, then. Scarlett clinked hers gently against his. To finally being whole. They drank in silence as the stars came out, and the world, for once, didn't ask anything of her. She didn't need more chapters, she didn't need revenge or redemption, just this, a life she chose. A love she trusted, and a future that no one else would write for her.